Have you ever noticed how euphemistic and progressive the modern discourse is concerning the history of the Islamic practice of concubinage and sex slavery, i.e., the Sultan's harem? Isn't this language a bit stilted and disingenuous, along with the entire conversation concerning the Islamic practice of sexual coercion? What would you say if this flowery language is an attempt to hide the much darker realities behind this phenomenon? Would you then call me Islamophobic for daring to even bring up this subject? And would you say that I'm a hateful bigot, an Islamophobic racist, for being a student of their words and their history?
And Allah made that those people taken under war, not regularly under war, as captives who were trying to kill you, that now you're going to support and keep in your house and spend on and treat well, that this is like a wife. This is somebody who you can have those relationships with. So if Allah made it halal, that is not zina. That is not adultery, because Allah made it halal. That's the line.
Aw, how progressive of you. And all this time I thought you held sex slaves in bondage to, well, use as sex slaves. I mean, Western academics like to argue that by the standards of the 7th century, Islam was a progressive advancement in the feminist cause, after all. This is all very interesting and enlightening, yet for some reason your co-religionists state that there are other reasons for this captivity, namely to humiliate the enemies of Islam. So perhaps Islam isn't as progressive as these Islamists and their leftist allies claim.
نظمه بإيه؟ إن لا يكون إلا عن طريق الحرب المشروعة بين المسلمين وبين أعدائهم. أسرى الحرب من النساء هم ملك اليمين، بمعنى إن عشان أذلهم بيصبحوا ملكا للقائد أو للجيش أو للمسلم، يستمتع بيهم كما يستمتع بزوجاته، لأن الإسلام بيقول إما على الزوجة وإما ملك اليمين. فإحنا هنا ملك اليمين بالمشروع هو نتيجة أسرى.
Wow, that's really interesting, huh? Yeah, in a religion with as many adherents as Islam has, there are invariably going to be divergent opinions, of course. But let's be honest, while humiliation is a laudable goal, perhaps the practice has other ends in mind, other than altruistic concern or mere humiliation for the women taken in war and possessed by your right hand, as outlined by the verse in the Quran 4:24, 23, 5-6, 33:50. Perhaps, and I'm just going out on a limb here, perhaps the sexual captivity is for the men's pleasure, for their enjoyment. Let's see what this progressive scholar of Islam has to say on the subject.
الأمة ملك يمينك يجوز لك أن تستمتع وتتسرى بها. هتلاقي في كتب الفقه التسري بالأمة أو التسري بملك اليمين، يعني الجماع. إن أخذت الأمة بطريق شرعي، شراء أو حرب، جينا بعد حرب والراجل وزع الغنائم وجي نصيبك في الغنيمة أمة، رقت الأمة وكانت متزوجة أو أرملة بس في سابق زوجية، ومن قضت عدتها لابد أن تستبرئ رحمها بانقضاء عدتها، وعدتها حيضة. إنما لو متجوزة في بلدها واسترقت، جوزها مات في الحرب أيا كان، هي اللي جات لنا كده، انفصمت العلقة بينهما وحل لك الاستمتاع بها بعد استبراء رحمها بإيه؟ بحيض. الجمة دي مش بني آدمة، مش امرأة، مش تبغي ما يبغي النساء. طب هي أمتي حرم علي جماعها، حرمت هي حقها الشرعي، مش بني آدمة. طب ليه يباح التسري بها؟ لأنها بني آدمة، ممكن تفكر في الحرام لو ظلمت. يبقى أباح الله التسري بالأمة لها من أجل إعفافها.
Aw, I need to get my mind out of the gutter. Of course, sexual enslavement, at least in the Islamic sense, isn't merely for the men's enjoyment. It's to provide a loving home, to humiliate, satisfy the sex slave's sexual urges, and to preserve their chastity. Of course, makes perfect sense. And that's exactly what this is.
We have Yazidi women, we have Kurdish women, and we have Christians.
In the event that a female's capture is killed in battle, she would face the unknown and be returned to the sex slave market to be degraded and resold again, trapped in a vicious cycle of rape, humiliation, and hopelessness.
So you know what? It's just a coincidence that men born in the Middle East or North Africa are arrested for sexual assault at 3 to 4 times the rate than Swedish-born men in Sweden. And it's just a coincidence that refugees from North Africa, particularly Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Afghanistan, were overrepresented in sex crime prosecutions by roughly 5 to 10 times the native Germans. And it's just a coincidence that in Great Britain, 84% of grooming gang convictions are committed by Muslim Pakistanis, even though Muslim Pakistanis only make up 2.5% of the British population. And this must be a coincidence as well. France and others. France doesn't collect official crime data by ethnicity or religion, but leaked internal notes and studies from the Ministry of the Interior indicate a vast overrepresentation of Muslim background youth in violent sexual crimes in Paris and Marseille. A 2018 Le Figaro review of police data indicated that 58% of blank suspects in Paris were foreign-born, a massive overrepresentation given their demographic fraction. And I'm sure this is just a coincidence as well. Similar ratios have been observed in Denmark, Norway, and Finland, albeit buried deep in internal reports. And you know what? The reason I cover this subject so extensively is the fact that I'm just a mean, big ol' Islamophobe who just hates these poor, put-upon brown people who are blamelessly being discriminated against in Europe. There's no rhyme or reason behind any of this. Our senses, our sight, our smell, our hearing, our logic, our rationality, our very ability to reason are just misdirected Islamophobia. And it's all just a far-right conspiracy. These are but a few of the thumbnails to my fascinating titles covering this subject. Search them out on my profile channel and watch them. If you want the truth, if you feel the need to resist the Orwellian hell in which we find ourselves, you need to like, upvote, save, and share my video. And even better, follow me. Only with massive support will I be able to continue to bring the truth before your eyes. May God have mercy on our souls for the world we are leaving our children.